is Radio Prague International, coming to you from the Czech capital.
Hello and welcome to Radio Prague International. I'm Sierra Krieger-Wolf. In today's program, we'll cover the nationwide event giving visitors access to normally inaccessible church interiors. Then, the Czech National Bank unveils a new gold coin dedicated to Plzeň. And later, we speak to Jan Zikmund, who recently founded a literary agency that aims to help Czech authors reach readers around the world. All that and more, but first the news with Ruth Frankova.
News.
Czech leaders have condemned a Russian drone strike that hit a residential building in Romania. President Petr Pavel called the attack completely unacceptable and backed Romanian President Nicu Șordan's call for a strong international response. He said allies should do more than simply condemn the attack and that Russia must understand such actions will not be tolerated. Prime Minister Andrej Babiš also denounced the strike, saying Czechia condemns Russia's continued aggression against Ukraine and stands by its NATO allies. The Czech Foreign Ministry, along with representatives of the opposition mayors and pirates, likewise condemned the attack. Romania has summoned the Russian ambassador over the incident. President Dan said his country would not allow Russia's war against Ukraine to spill over onto Romanian citizens and has asked the Foreign Ministry to propose measures in response. Jakub Kulhánek, Czechia's ambassador to the United Nations and a former foreign minister, is set to become the country's next ambassador to the United States. U.S. authorities have approved the nomination, Foreign Minister Petr Macinka told Czech television. Kulhánek will replace current ambassador Miloslav Stašek in Washington. Macinka described him as an experienced diplomat moving from New York to the U.S. capital. Kulhánek served as foreign minister in 2021 in the government of Andrej Babiš. He has also held senior positions at the Interior Ministry and represented Czechia at the United Nations. The Czech economy grew by 2.2% year-on-year in the first quarter of 2026, according to revised figures from the Czech Statistics Office released on Friday. That is slightly higher than its initial estimate released in April. Compared with the previous quarter, GDP rose by 0.2%. Growth was driven mainly by higher household spending and investment, while foreign trade weighed on the result. Exports increased by 5.8% and imports by 8.2%. Employment also rose, with the number of people in work up 1.1% year-on-year. A monument to František Suchý, the Czech crematorium director who secretly preserved the ashes of victims of Nazi and communist repression, was unveiled in Madrid on Friday. During the Second World War, Suchý hid the remains of hundreds of victims so they could one day receive a dignified burial. Among them were several Spaniards who died at the Hradišťko concentration camp near Prague. The bronze statue, created by sculptor Jakub Vlček and funded by private donors, stands in Madrid Rio Park near the Prague Bridge. It was unveiled by Czech and Spanish representatives. Nearly 40% of Czechs aged 15 to 24 use some form of nicotine, and a quarter do so daily, according to a new survey by the National Institute of Public Health issued on Friday. Electronic cigarettes are the most popular product among young users. Across the population as a whole, 29.5% of people use nicotine products, while the share of smokers has fallen slightly in recent years. The use of e-cigarettes has more than doubled over the past 5 years. The survey also found that alcohol consumption and harmful drinking continue to decline, although alcohol use in Czechia remains high by international standards. And finally, a quick look at the weather. Saturday will be mostly cloudy to overcast with occasional rain or showers. Daytime highs will range between 24 and 28 degrees Celsius. I'm Ruth Frankova, and that's the end of the news.
That was the news, and we turn now to current affairs. Night of Churches, which takes place this Friday, is an annual nationwide event that gives visitors access to church interiors that are normally inaccessible. Churches across the country also invite people to a rich cultural program featuring concerts and lectures. Romana Grajcerova has the details.
This year's theme of Night of Churches is courage. According to the organizers, it is an invitation to reflect on what it means to overcome fear, search for meaning, and take responsibility for oneself and others. In Prague, one of the biggest attractions for visitors is certainly the unique Church of the Most Sacred Heart of Our Lord, located in the Vinohrady district. The church, built in 1929 and designed by the legendary Slovenian architect Jože Plečnik, impresses visitors with its facade at first sight. Plečnik found inspiration for the construction in early Christian and ancient motifs, but its most striking feature is undoubtedly the large glass clock, which also serves as a window into the main tower. The museum and gallery of Northern Plzeň region in Mariánska Týnice also participates in the event. Local guide Hanna Fričková invites to the rich program that starts at 6 p.m.
We will open the program with music by a Cistercian monk. There will be bell ringing across the diocese, an art workshop for small children, and a short treasure hunt in the church and surrounding areas. Mariánska Týnice is considered one of the gems of Baroque architecture in Western Bohemia. The former pilgrimage site of a Cistercian monastery has been listed as a National Cultural Monument since 2018. The second largest city in Czech Republic, Brno, will take part in the event through sound. The historic center will be filled with the ringing of 29 church bells at 5 p.m. Among other things, people will also be able to hear the bishop's bell from the northern tower of the Cathedral of Saints Peter and Paul, which is otherwise silent.
Práve sa nachádzame priamo v biskupskom zvone.
This bell dates from 1852, weighs nearly 4,000 kilograms, has a diameter of 187 centimeters, and is tuned to A flat 0, making it the deepest sounding bell in Brno.
Čož ho vlastne robí najhlbším zvonom v Brne,
says chief bell ringer Matúš Sedlák. In the Moravian Silesian region, visitors can see the Leaning Church of St. Peter of Alcantara in Karviná, also nicknamed the Czech Pisa. The ground beneath this church has sunk by 37 meters in just a few decades due to the collapse of mine tunnels below the site. As a result, the building now leans to the south, yet it remains standing and has become a unique and well-known tourist attraction. Lovers of rural architecture will also find plenty to admire in the border region of the Czech Republic, Slovakia and Poland on the slopes of the Beskid Mountains. This area is home to a network of wooden churches. In total, there are almost 20 of them, and their construction used wood from oaks, firs and spruces. A rich program of events will include, for example, the Church of the Exaltation of the Holy Cross, located in the border village of Bystřice, as well as the Church of Saints Peter and Paul in the village of Hněvošice. This Baroque wooden church, with its original interior, has been protected as a cultural monument since 1958 and is listed in the Central Register of Cultural Monuments of the Czech Republic. Thank you, Romana Grajcerova, for that report. The Czech National Bank has unveiled a new gold coin dedicated to the West Bohemian city of Plzeň. Although its face value is 5,000 crowns, collectors are already paying almost 60,000 for it. Made from pure gold, the coin features some of Plzeň's best-known landmarks and forms part of the bank's series honoring historic Czech cities. Ruth Frankova has the story.
The coin was presented on Tuesday at the event at Masné Krámy Gallery in Plzeň, attended by its creator, sculptor Zbigněk Fojtů. Czech National Bank board member Karina Kubelková outlined its technical specifications.
Je ražena z ryzího zlata o ryzosti 999,9.
It is minted from pure gold. It has a diameter of 28 millimeters, a thickness of 1.8 millimeters, and weighs 15.55 grams, which is half a troy ounce. It is the 11th coin in the Urban Heritage Reserve series and is dedicated to the city of Plzeň.
The final design was selected from a competition involving 16 leading Czech medalists and artists. Vojtu says his knowledge of the city helped inspire the coin's appearance.
Tak pro mě bylo nejdůležitější vlastně ta katedrála svatého Bartoloměje.
The most important landmarks for me were the Cathedral of Saint Bartholomew, the Renaissance Town Hall and other buildings mainly from the 19th century. I also wanted to include a building featuring graffito decorations by Mikuláš Aleš, who created dozens of designs for buildings in Plzeň.
Desítky návrhů pro hodně budov tady v Plzni.
One side of the coin features the Cathedral of Saint Bartholomew, part of the house at the Red Hart on Republic Square, and a fragment of the decorative graffito plasterwork, together with the inscription City of Plzeň and the year 2026. The other side shows part of the Renaissance Town Hall on Republic Square alongside the Czech lion, the Moravian eagle and the Silesian eagle from the National Coat of Arms, as well as part of the Municipal Library building on Bedřich Smetana Street. Karel Zoch, head of the Heritage Preservation at Plzeň City Hall, praised the balance of the design.
Já si myslím, že účelem nebylo určitě tam dát úplně všechno.
The aim was not to include absolutely everything, because the historic center of Plzeň is a magnificent collection of outstanding buildings from different architectural periods. What I like about the design is its balance. The artist managed to include something from almost every era, creating a broad spectrum.
Co vytváří to celé spektrum.
The Czech National Bank produced 2,600 standard editions of the coin, along with another 5,500 highly polished proof versions aimed at collectors. While the coin's official value is 5,000 crowns, its market price is much higher. At Tuesday's unveiling, it was selling for more than 59,000 crowns, reflecting the cost of gold as well as production and distribution expenses. The coin is available through authorized Czech National Bank distributors, although it can technically be used as payment if a shop agrees to accept it. The Czech National Bank itself will only redeem it at its official face value of 5,000 crowns.
Ruth Frankova with that story. And with that, it's now time for today's feature. Few, if any, Czech writers today enjoy the same kind of international profiles that the likes of Milan Kundera and Bohumil Hradbal once did. But one person working to help today's generation reach more readers abroad is literary agent Jan Zikmund, and he is Ian Willoughby's guest now in Prague Talk.
Earlier this year, Jan Zikmund launched Zikmund Literary, an agency that primarily aims to help Czech authors find readers around the world. How does he plan to achieve this? How do books from this country tend to fare in foreign markets? And what other states can Czechia learn from in this arena? I discuss these questions and more with Zikmund, who's in his mid-30s and previously helped promote Czech writing in English-speaking countries at the state-funded Czech Literary Centre.
I felt that there is a need for a new literary agency here. There are a lot of writers and poets that have no foreign representation. So there are some publishing houses like Host and Paseka and Argo that have people that are focusing on promoting their books abroad. But there are many other publishers that don't do this service for writers. And so especially now, this year, Czechia will be the guest of honor at the Frankfurt Book Fair, which is a kind of big thing. And not just because of this, but I generally felt that there is room for a new agency. And, you know, because I learned so much at the Czech Literary Center, I had this desire to actually use my contacts, use my knowledge, and build something on my own, something independent. So, you know, I spent 6 years at the Czech Literary Center, and I felt that I would like to try something new and focus on specific authors rather than representing the kind of the whole Czech literature that I was doing at Czechlit.
And are there any other agents offering the kind of services you are now offering?
Yes, there are other, 3 or 4 agents that are already representing some Czech writers, and I think they are doing a fairly good job. But the Czech literary scene is quite big, and there are all these different genres. So it's not just fiction. There is comics, there is poetry, there is sci-fi, and I think most agents focus on fiction, and I would like to focus maybe also on the other literary forms and genres. So that's kind of the difference.
And generally speaking, if it comes to literary fiction, what's the position of Czechia today, let's say on the world, in quotation marks, market? Do many Czech books reach readers internationally? If they do, how much success can they really have?
There's been this debate for years about this issue, and a lot of people are saying that we don't really have anybody prominent, anybody that would be a world-class writer. And that's partly true, but partly false. I think when I come to the UK or US, people only know Kundera, and they always mention Kundera. Maybe some people know Hrabal, Klima, but people don't really know anybody contemporary. That's true. But at the same time, I think there are some writers like Marek Šindelka, Radka Denemarková, Jaroslav Rudyš, people like that who have had success in one particular country. In the case of Rudyš and Denemarková, that's Germany. Šindelka has been doing very well in the Netherlands. We have some writers that are quite popular in Poland. So I think this kind of local success or local prominence, I think prominence is a better word than success, I think, that's been there. And I think that these writers could build on that. So I feel we have a lot of talents here and some great writers, but I think we are still looking for our Olga Tokarczuk in a way, somebody that would really kind of jump like a one level higher and gain this the worldwide reputation. That's true.
But is the problem that the Czech writers aren't at that level? It's not really about marketing or them reaching outside the borders, it sounds like.
That's hard to say because, very often it's about the promotion and about having a good literary agent. Also, it's about being lucky sometimes as well. Sometimes, it's about all it takes is some big American publishing house that maybe knows your agent, and then you get published by a big press, and then other countries start paying attention. They are saying, "Oh wow, we should also publish this person." So sometimes it's about luck as well. But I think that's also why I'm starting the literary agency. I think Czech literary agents are also improving, and I feel that once the literary agents will work very well, then there's a much bigger chance that at least one or two fiction writers will get a kind of bigger reputation.
And are there any particular countries from which the Czechs could draw inspiration in terms of states that maybe punch above their weight a little bit?
I think generally we should look northern. Finland, for example, they were the guest of honor at the Frankfurt Book Fair in 2014, and they had a very nice and successful presentation there. They collect stats about the state of Finnish literature abroad, and I know from their stats that they've had a lot of interest from UK and US publishers, especially in the years after the Frankfurt Book Fair. So maybe the year of the book fair and then a year or two later. So I think they are doing a very good job there. They have a wonderful literary center in Helsinki. So, because they are similar size, it's also a fairly small country and small language, I think we can definitely draw inspiration from them. And obviously, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, these countries, I think they've been doing a very good job.
Given that the Czechs are going to be the guest of honor, whatever it's called, at Frankfurt this year, do you think the Czechs are ready? Are they well prepared to make the most of the opportunity?
So I think that Czechs definitely are ready. I think the Moravian Library and the Czech Literary Center are doing a good job in preparing this project, and we will see how the presentation in Frankfurt will look like. But what is important to point out is that the agency work and the effort to bring Czech writers into foreign languages is very much dependent on the Czech Ministry of Culture and their grants. These grants support the publications of Czech books abroad. So, foreign publishers can apply for funds that cover the translation costs and printing costs, and without these grants, even the whole Frankfurt project will not be as successful. So my hope as an agent is that the Czech Ministry of Culture will keep those grants active, and that there's going to be a lot of finances in those grants, because that way, Czech writers have a chance to be published abroad.
I speak to people in many areas of the arts, including people who work for relatively big but still not huge film festivals, and pretty much everybody I meet is facing financial stress, at least. How is Czech literature, how are Czech writers and the Czech literary scene in general faring economically today?
Yeah, I think, it's hard for me to judge the whole scene, but most recently there have been some cuts in grants for Czech literary magazines and for Czech literary festivals, and that's really disconcerting, because obviously, as you can imagine, editors of Czech literary magazines are doing the job for little money, and they can't even pay big fees to contributors, and so if they have even less money, then it'll just make the job much harder for them, and that's a big worry. And obviously, in terms of the foreign promotion, I think that in the past few years, the grants of the Czech Ministry of Culture for foreign publishers have been really working very well. I think even comparing to some other countries, we have a very functional grants support. And I'm only hoping that the Minister of Culture knows this, and that they will keep this program alive, that there's going to be a lot of money even after Frankfurt in this grant program, because it may take a year or two till we see the Frankfurt effect. It might take some time, and it's important that we are ready for the interest coming from, let's say, the US or Spain and other countries.
To kind of backtrack a little bit, or maybe take a digression, sometimes it struck me in the past that there were Czech writers who enjoyed success, for example, in the 1980s, who perhaps weren't fantastic writers, but they had some kind of international profile or sympathy, essentially because of their story. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that. That goes also for the whole country, so we were, I think, more appealing to Western readers, because obviously writers here were writing under pressure, during the Cold War. It was kind of exotic that some Polish or Czech novel or poetry collection would be published in the West, and so it made us more interesting, more appealing because of our political situation. Right now it's a bit more difficult, but I think that there is still a potential, definitely, for us to be interesting.
When it comes to different genres, which are the ones that you think could give Czechia some international hits, or that could sell relatively well?
I think it's definitely comics, or to be more precise, graphic novels. Even when I was still working at the Czech Literary Center, we have had a lot of success promoting Czech comics abroad. I know that several Czech graphic novels have been recently published in a French translation in France, and France is obviously probably the most important comics country in Europe, maybe in the whole world, and so that's been great. And also there are other graphic novels published in Germany, in the UK, in Spain. So it seems that there is, some people even say it's a golden age of Czech comics right now, and there are some kind of established comic artists like Jaromír 99 or Jaromír Švejdík and Lucie Lmová, but then there are also many up-and-coming talented artists like Štěpánka Jislova, Kateřina Čupová, and so that's really something, I think, special, and so graphic novels definitely are appealing. And then my kind of my background is in poetry, and so I believe we have several world-class poets, and I'm lucky to represent people like Petr Hruška or Milan Těžinský, who has just been published in the US by a very, very good publishing house there. So I think in the kind of world of poetry, I think we also have something to offer.
Getting back before we end to the literary agency of yours, how many writers have you got? Are you looking out for more? What's your plans in that regard?
So my agency at this point represents 15 authors, but I would like to add more. I'm also specifically looking to add, more writers and poets from Slovakia, potentially Poland and Germany. I don't want to focus just on Czech writers. So I'm going to be adding more, but obviously I need to be very careful not to add too many writers and only add those that I really would like to work with long term.
And where would you like the Zikmund Literary Agency to be in, let's say, 5 or even 10 years?
For independent literary agencies, I think the main goal is to basically survive, and to have enough funds to, do the agency work. I would like the agency to be kind of self-sufficient at some point, and that would allow me and my colleagues to have the time and energy for the writers. And in terms of the portfolio, and as I said, I would like to add more authors, and I would like for the portfolio to be really international. I also consider adding some American writers, especially American poets, and I would like to help them be published in Europe. So I would also like to do this agency work kind of in the opposite direction, not just from Czech into English and other languages, but also from English into Czech and Polish and so on. So I would like to, in the next years, to create a network, basically, create a network of, publishers and translators who like the authors that we represent, and, hopefully this will lead to kind of more publications abroad.
That episode of Prague Talk with literary agent Jan Zikmund has brought us to the end of this half-hour broadcast from Prague. Thank you all for tuning in, and remember you'll find these stories and more at radio.cz. And should you like to contact us, our email address is english@radio.cz. You can follow Radio Prague on Instagram, Facebook, and X. We're always happy to hear from you. I'm Sierra Krieger-Wolf, and have a beautiful rest of your day.